What's happening, YouTube? Thanks for tuning back into the channel today. Right here with me, the Rustbelt Mechanic. As you can see from the background, we've got a little bit of different scenery going on here, and that's because I'm on vacation. And when best to do your best thinking than when you're on vacation? My mind's cleared, I'm away from work for a while, and I'm getting a whole lot of ideas going through. So today I wanted to do a top 5 here for you, focusing on the top 5 attributes to running a successful automotive shop. Now I'm going to focus in more on the automotive dealership side because that's the background and that's where I'm coming from. So there may be a couple of things thrown in there that might be dealership specific as compared to independent shop, but I think it's going to be pretty relevant to just about any automotive shop. So let's get into them. Number one we're going to come to on our list is going to be just focusing in on the hardware, the shop, the tools, the lifts, everything that you need to run a physical shop. Now, you don't have to have this huge fancy shop with all the latest and greatest equipment, but you do need to have equipment that is relevant to what you're working on and ones that don't break down on you all the time. So having things that are able to be worked on, having them able to be serviced, and having a service schedule for your automotive equipment in the shop is very, very important. You have to have the special tools. When you're thinking about the dealership aspect of things, we are required by certain manufacturers to have a crap load of special tools. You need to have those. You need to have those to make sure they're cataloged. To be able to use special tools correctly, you have to know where they're at, because honestly, if you waste an hour of your time looking for a special tool, it's not really that special anymore. It just doesn't work that well. The other big thing you have to realize about a shop is how well and how clean kept that you keep it. It's been performed in studies and just shows that a clean work area is better in general across many different work areas, whether it's in an office, at a job site, or at a dealership, or at a shop. If you have things cleaned, they're more organized, people are more likely to see your shop and see that it's more of a professional atmosphere. On top of that, their outward opinion from a customer looking in at your shop might be greatly varied, just by the looks of it. They look into your shop and see that, oh, my car's in there. It may not look so great for you. So keeping things clean is a really big attribute that you need to keep, as well as thinking about something for the customers. The waiting area, you have a nice place for them to sit. You've got a couple of things sitting there waiting on them, some hot coffee, some magazines, TV, someplace nice where they can feel at least semi-comfortable, because to be honest, when they're bringing it to your shop, it's like the worst day ever for them. Having that nice area for the customers to sit in and having them just be able to be comfortable is a great atmosphere, just for them to be able to say, hey, yes, I had a great experience there. They took care of not only my car, but myself. So that worked out the best for most customers. So there's a couple of reasons why you guys need to focus in on your shop, the equipment, and the customer service area. Numero dos on our list is going to be the management side of the dealership or the automotive shop. Now, when you think of the management portion of it, you might think just the service manager, but no, you have to have a management aspect in a lot of different areas. You have a parts manager, at least in the dealership. You have a parts manager, you've got your service manager, a service writer could be considered management, as well as a shop foreman if you guys have a shop that has the size to be able to work and have that position. Now, the positions and the jobs of each of those we won't really go into, but they are extremely important. Starting at the shop manager, or the service manager, or whatever you're going to call that one, their job is extremely important. They have to not only manage and put everything through the shop, but try to keep an eye out on looking out for more aspects and trying to get, say, advertising out into the public, trying to keep the customers happy, because like I said earlier, the customer coming into your shop is having the worst day of their life ever. So they've got to be able to keep customers happy. You also have to be able to manage your technicians without micromanaging them. That's where the shop foreman comes into play. If you have that availability or that many technicians that you have to keep an eye on them and not want to micromanage, the shop foreman is where that job is going to come into place, helping to delegate the jobs, helping to keep workflow moving in the shop. On a smaller shop, the service manager is going to want to keep these jobs coming in and out, so you're going to want to be feeding the technicians who generally are going to be working flat rate. You have to pay attention to the work output hours, the efficiency, how everything's working, and then you also have to be able to get back with the customers on top of that. When you're talking with techs and customers back and forth, you have to have a good line of communication, which we will get into here shortly on that one as well. The profit level, you're going to have to keep an eye on that one, and that's why a lot of people don't really go into the independent side of the shop world, because being a shop owner, you're going to be filling all of those roles. Not just, oh, I'm going to take care of the technicians back here, keep them in line and everything, or you're just going to be taking care of the customer. No, you've got to fill every shoe when it comes to that one. And having good management, somebody who's able to delegate jobs correctly and efficiently, is going to be one of the most important aspects of a dealership or a shop. Third on our list is going to be focusing in on the parts department. Now, not every independent shop is going to have a parts department, but you also have to think about your relationship with a parts retailer, an aftermarket parts source, or something along those lines. On the dealership side of things, you have an entire department to have to worry about. The parts department has to be able to work with and communicate with not only the management of the service side of things, but also the technicians, getting things planned out, getting the parts when they need them as fast as they can get them. Parts is one of the biggest holdups that I've found personally in our industry that is an efficiency killer. When parts aren't available, or parts people don't go through and find the parts they need as fast as they can from whatever source possible, it holds things up tremendously. And that's actually what ends up making customers the most upset, is the fact that their vehicle isn't ready because, oh, that part's on back order, or we couldn't get this part in time. They tell you, oh, there was a shipping delay, when really somebody didn't order them or didn't order the correct part. There has to be a really good, strong relationship with a parts retailer to be able to get those parts as efficiently as possible. On the dealership side of things, yes, they do get a loyalty for using their dealership parts, being able to get those, the OEM parts. They're generally higher quality, they're usually costing more as well, but they usually get some kind of a kickback from that dealer and manufacturer when they use those specific parts. Now, on the back side of things, they're not always the most readily available. Usually, especially when you're talking about a smaller parts department like the dealership that I work at, not everything is going to be in stock. So when I go to quote something, there's going to be a delay on, oh, that part is next day, or that part's 3 to 5 days out. And that could be something that's the difference in selling a job or having the customer say, no, this car is my only vehicle, I really need it back, I'm going to go shop for something somewhere else. And that's where you have to have the availability to get a quote from an aftermarket source. Having an aftermarket source in that area or that aspect is going to give you more leverage and more leeway to get the customer, oh, here's some more options for you. This is the OEM cost of an OEM part, and some people might be really specific, and I came to the dealership, I want OEM parts, that's why I came here. So there's an option for them. Whereas other people, they came to the dealership to get their specific training and availability to work through the schedule on that specific style of vehicle. They understand them better, just for the diagnostic side of things. But when it comes to the parts department, if they can't get that part as fast and efficiently as possible, it just ends up holding everything up. So giving the customer that option that say, okay, the dealership or the OEM part is going to be maybe a day or so out, but the aftermarket one I can have here in 5, 10, 15 minutes from an aftermarket source. You have to have that want or that drive to find the most efficient way to get the parts to the dealership as fast as possible. It's not only holding the customer up, but it's holding the technicians up as well. You don't want them to have 5, 6, 7 vehicles pushed out back outside waiting on parts, because honestly that takes a lot of time and holds the whole process up immensely. Having a good parts source, having a good parts department is extremely important in the mix of having a good shop or a good dealership department. Fourth on our list is going to be something that's a little more controversial, and that's going to be the side of training and certification, not just for the technicians, but for the other departments as well. In the dealership side of things, management needs to have training to be able to be kept up on the latest and greatest parts, recalls, service standards that that manufacturer has available. So it's a really big aspect that they have to keep up on. The parts department, they need to have some sort of training to keep them up to date with the latest and greatest parts, because when a technician comes up and says, I need this whatever multi-air control valve, and all of a sudden they're like, huh? It's just like looking into the eyes of a dumbfounded aftermarket parts person that asks you whether it's four-wheel drive or not to be able to get an intake air temp sensor. You know, it's just one of those things. Training and certification is also something that goes in along the lines of advertising for your shop or dealership. A lot of people, when they look to going to shops, they look to see whether there's ASE certification. Now, whether or not you think ASEs are really actually important, that is something that customers do look into and do look at for the reputation of a certain shop. The technicians are the big side of things that need to be kept up on certifications. They need to be able to have the latest training to keep up with the latest vehicles, especially on the dealership side, because you are getting the newer vehicles, you're getting the latest and greatest technology that that manufacturer is coming out with, and you need to be able to not only perform and look these things up to understand how they work, but you need to be able to understand them well enough to be able to explain that technology, why it is or isn't working, to the customer or the service manager, to be able to get a proper idea to the customer conveyed. That is going to be one of the hardest things, is understanding some of the newer things and getting that out in an efficient manner. Technology changes all the time. We can definitely agree on that one. So keeping up to date on that is going to be one of the most important things that a technician has in his arsenal, is just information in general. Now, on the independent side of things, yeah, you're not going to be seeing the newest, latest, greatest things. You're not going to be getting into hybrid technology as much. That's one of the newer things that are coming out recently. But you do have to keep up on at least the basics. You have to be able to go through the diagnostic process on certain vehicles, and even when it comes into having experience in these vehicles and seeing what is a known failure part, that just comes with experience. But actually understanding a diagnostic process that's able to actually diagnose and figure out a vehicle without looking something up on Google and saying, oh, 37 people reported that this part was the failure on that code. Yeah, it might get you started in an area of looking at things, but actually being trained and actually having the know-how to diagnose and figure these things out on your own and independently of just opinion of other people is something extremely important for you guys as well. Training is one of those things I think is one of the most important tools a technician can have, and it's something that everyone should keep up to date on as much as possible. Fifth and final item on our list today is going to be the most important thing of any shop, any dealership ever, is going to be communication. Communication not only between the technician and a service writer, the service writer to the customer's ability to contact the dealership back, but across every portion of the dealership. You have to be able to have a process set up to be able to get the information, the costs, the reasoning, the diagnosis across these departments as quickly and efficiently as possible, so there's not any downtime. When a customer brings their vehicle in, the first point of communication is going to be the interaction between the customer and the service writer or the service manager. They have to be able to convey and get their idea or their issues across to them in a good enough manner to be able to put onto a repair order. Now, sometimes the service writer might have to play 20 questions with the customer because they can't really describe the difference between a squeak or a squeal, or at what speed, or if it's with engine RPM. A service writer has to be able to convey that information from the customer's mind or the customer's words to the paper to be able to hand to the technician. That is one of the biggest downfalls in the communication process, at least in the dealership world. When you're not able to have a technician that is knowledgeable and knows what he's doing in his diagnostic process talk to a customer, you have to be that first line of attack in getting a properly diagnosed vehicle. Having that repair order written up correctly is definitely the first most important aspect of it. Then when the vehicle goes back to the technician is able to read that repair order and get his diagnostic, get his information started, go through his independent process. He has a diagnosis with it. Then they have to get the times, the quotes. They have to go to the parts department. Communication is a big point right there. They have to be able to get their ideas and their diagnosis into the parts department and them understanding what the parts are, what the correct parts are. So you have to have that communication and that connection with the parts department so they know that they're ordering the correct part and not ordering incorrect parts way too often and holding up the process yet again. Now, the last thing in communication is when the customer is given the quote. The biggest thing we find issues with in the dealership world is that the customer is given this quote. Now, they may not be able to understand fully, so you may be losing sales based on what the diagnosis actually was. Having a good story and have, along with a parts quote to be able to give to the service writer, to be able to explain, is something just as important of actually having a quote that is worth a damn. A customer might have 20, 30 questions, might be an engineer, and you don't want to be sitting there with your pants down as a service writer saying, yeah, that's just what the technician told me. That leaves a big blank in the customer's mind, and it leaves them thinking that you are a very inept shop and not able to get them the information or do a correct repair. So having the correct information from the technician to be able to give to that customer is a huge selling point when it comes to jobs. Now, in the independent side of things, yes, you guys are doing this all on your own. You guys are the step-by-step process going through and getting this all on your own. You may have somebody in the desk or the parts area, something along the lines, to be able to get parts quotes. So there might be a few less steps, but you, the technician, or you, the owner, is the one going to the customer and explaining those things. So that helps on the process. But again, that's the great side of actually owning your shop, is you have to play a lot more hats when it comes to the jobs in your own shop. When the customer finally says, okay, let's go ahead and do that job, then that's the biggest next communication point of the service writer, is not only do you have to get the quote into parts, but you also have to convey to the technician that, hey, this customer okayed this, this, and this. They may not have okayed the whole job. They have to be able to get that into parts and then talk to the technician about what was okayed, what wasn't okayed, so the technician can then not waste time and either push a vehicle outside if they're going to be waiting on parts, or getting the vehicle actually torn apart because they are going to have parts that day. The biggest waste of time is going to be when a service writer just hands the quote into the parts department and all of a sudden they don't tell the technician anything, so the technicians maybe pulled another vehicle in, or they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, waiting around. on being able to get information on, hey, what am I doing next on this? Oh, I forgot to tell you, we got this one okayed like half an hour ago, so you just wasted half an hour, you know, twiddling around or sitting on your thumb or whatever you do in your downtime, which you should not be doing flat rate wise. So communication, communication, communication. If you do not have that between your departments, your employees, if you're not able to communicate respectively and efficiently enough, then you need to totally overhaul whatever system that you're working with and actually get a system that is going to work for your specific situation. Miscommunication or lack of communication is probably one of the biggest things that kills dealerships and kills shops in today's world. If you miscommunicate and you piss off a customer, there goes your ratings with the Better Business Bureau or whatever the customers are putting in on Yelp. They're going to kill you on that one. So don't mess up when it comes to communication. Be able to talk to each other. If you don't have that availability to do so, you might need to fire somebody, make some changes to be able to communicate better with everybody in your automotive shop. Like I said, those are my 5 different points to be able to run a successful automotive shop, especially on the dealership side of things. If you guys have things to add to this, I'd like to see more of an input of information from you. Put a comment down below. Let me know if there's something that I missed or you think might be even more important when it comes to running the shop from your experience at least. I like to see the input from you guys. It's very important to me. So make sure you guys leave a comment below. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button as well and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be coming out with the latest and greatest content that I possibly can get a hold of for you guys when it comes to the automotive world, tools and builds on the channel. My Duramax build is coming to a conclusion, so that video will be dropping here shortly as well. Make sure also to go and check out ToolHeadsCrate.com. Me and Mr. JRC54 have put on this monthly subscription crate service for you guys to get a monthly gift in the mail, enjoy some tools, some different aspects of the automotive world and the field that these products are putting out into the field for you guys to enjoy. We try to convey what is coming out, the latest and greatest things, get you guys coupon codes and awesome things in every single month. I appreciate everything you guys have done for me. Thank you, and as always, you guys stay awesome.